Alright, moving on to Section 2 of Chapter 5. When inspector discovers a violation, he or she determines the best method of gaining compliance with the applicable regulation, recommendation, civil penalty, but the inspector should complete the FRA Form 6180-110 violation report, electronically submit this report to his or her regional specialist. 521. Preparing the violation report. The following instructions shall be strictly followed with the completion of the FRA Form 6180-110. The respondent and the railroad company in the code number, the name of any violation against the type taken with the FIA Form 96, the railroad company name in the code. If needed for the name of the railroad company, you can be keyed in manually. Name of the inspector's name, identification number are automatically filled in. The address, the respondent address for the entity is taken for the FIA Form 96 that cannot be keyed manually. The violation report, the report number is entered by the inspector before the violation report is generated. The consecutive numbers are recommended, but the duplicated numbers are not allowed. With result in error. The field form 96 report number, the date, the inspection report name, the date of the taken for the corresponding FRA form 96 are automatically filled out. With these changes, these cannot be changed. The location where the violation was occurred, city, state, and the respective GCA codes that taken for the corresponding with the form 96 that cannot be changed. The date of the violation occurred. The default, the data inspector was created will be used, but this can be manually changed, and to do so, enter the date of the violation. Drop down calendar. The date of the violation is actually date of the trigger event, but not necessarily the date of the violation was discovered. For example, the violation for the improperly prepared shipping papers arrived at the day of the offer of offered the card for each transportation. All right, train designation. Either enter the train number if applicable, line item in the primary section, violated number of the claim. They're automatically filled within the corresponding form. The 96 to see additional line items. Use the correct arrow and the left arm coil to scroll up and down violation narrative. The editable file with the most included with the narrative description violation, including the relevant facts analysis sufficient to prove each of the element violations. CM memo attached to Appendix C, improvement of the civil penalty enforcement. The following guidelines should be filed with written violation narrative. Do not produce the quote regulation issue length unless quoting a portion of what would assist the readers in understanding the violation. If more, one of the pages needed to actually describe analyzing the violation at the continuing sheet. The continuation sheet must be prefaced with the violation report narrative continued provided with the following information is applicable to the violation report number or narrative. Car container number that should be clearly identified. The Department of Transportation specification on the tanker car. General description of other transportation vehicle, if applicable. The Department of Transportation specific and description of packaging. Whether the violation involves a leak, injury, or death of evacuation. If so, the description, relevant facts surrounding the incident, extent and nature of the leak, extent and nature of the injury, extent of the evacuation. If the retest of the death dates and improper stenciling are involved. A description of what was improper, the stenciling data that includes the photos and report observations where appropriate, car movement history where applicable, proof in the triggering event which forms the basis of a liability, party cited with the performance either of the offering function not compliance with the hazmat material regulation, party cited transportation of the hazmat package at issue, etc. The casual relations between cited party and the violation situation regulation violated, while the defective violations violates the regulation. It is unnecessary to quote the regulation unless quoting the portion that would be assist the readers in understanding. The offer is, if applicable, should be clearly identified, including name of the address, corporate headquarters, and in brief description, organization size, the type of the business, compliance history, including the knowledge and previous inspection violation, discussion, quality, procedure, loading and unloading hazmat material, if applicable. The hazmat material beginning with the transportation should be clearly identified, including proper shipping name, hazard class, identification number, placard briefing, the description, nature, and hazard of the proper description of the gravity violation relates to the proper product involved. Corrective handling. Report name, the title, affiliation of any person contacted with the inspector connection with the violation and complaints with the admin. Signed the witness statement, including the summary of all conversations between the inspector and any such person, a particular report of an oral admission concerning the violation made by any of the representative of the person committing such violation. Reports just conversation and objective matter with the interjection with the opinions, representative characteristics of veracity, the obtaining signed witness statements with a possible record variable admission, but the reliability reports and interview appropriate reports and prepare the made of the cars an applicable plus an emergency response if applicable. Inspectors should bear in mind that the RCC is required to by law to take into account of certain factors to determine the amount of civil penalty to be assessed by the particular violation. The factors are as follows: nature, circumstance, extent, and gravity of the violation committed with respect to the person who committed such violation, the degree of culpability, any history of the main prior offenses, ability to pay, effective ability to continue to do business, such as in only manner just as they may require. The violation report should contain as much of the information as possible bearing the proper application of these factors. Inspectors should be also proper to bear in mind the distinction between the knowledge and law and knowledge of the factor constituting violation, knowledge of the law presumed of the case of the court respondent individual may show own to have knowledge of the regulation involved with the only or have recklessly disregarded the law before the enforcement action may be taken. See below. Each of the violation must also contain the evidence demonstrating that the knowledge of all the facts have been constituted violation of the Federal Hazmat Bureau regulation, transportation laws, civil penalty provision, Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 5123. Makes liable for only those persons who have knowingly committed any violation of the statute regulations. In this context, knowingly means respondent have actually knowledge of the facts, who have the respondent exercise responsible care under the circumstance that the respondent would have known the facts. Violation reports should be concise and state only the facts to have pertinent violation. All narrative information should be listed in chronological order. Report recommendation should never contain a statement indicating with the results of the compliant investigation referred to the witness as a complaint. Every violation must be reported to the violator or his or her appropriate representative by serving the person with a copy of the inspection report as the earliest possible time. Subsequent and associated violation report. The inspector should state to whom and whom the violation was reported. Recommendation for prosecution against the different respondents may be submitted as separate violation reports. If regulated by the hazmat material and function is performed by the agent and any other entity, narrative of reports should explain the fully possible relationship between the agent and the other entity. The violation report should provide with the evidence of the agent, the principal culpability. If the inspector determines the civil penalty should be recommended against the parties, and each of the violations should be addressed with the culpability of the parties cited in the report, whether despite the action or inaction of other party the civil penalty is justified other than the hand in some assistance. The culpability of one party may be slow, and the other party so high that the seeking the civil penalty against the first party may not serve the deterrent purpose. The transmittal form from regional sheet TFR transmittal from region should be not available for the related. Should note that any related reports blocked with the related violation reports in order the reviewers to be aware of the relationship between the reports. If all the elements of the violation can be proven, the inspector personnel observation documentation and the admonition against the interest of the person being to be charged manager's omission for the violation occurs with alleged documentary physical evidence that must be witness to the violation. At least one person with the knowledge of the violation will willingly testify on the behalf of the United States concerning the violation who is specifically authorized to use his or her signed statement in enforcement with the proceeding. When one or more elements claim that it is based on a witness statement, which must be on one of the prescribed form, the transmittal sheet of the violation report must be marked with an X on the witness statement. If the violation is resolved with the compliant investigation, the report must disclose the fact that the name of the compliant job description must not be referenced in any portion of the report of the attachment. Any violation report shall be included a list of the attachment identified with the support documentation provided with the report. If it would read understanding of the report, violation report narrative should be referenced in specific attachments. Photographs they actually show the violation or strong evidence make the difference between the sustaining a violation and having it compromised in the claims of the collection process. If the violation report is submitted with the paper, the RRC is opposed to the electronic. The inspection should include the photograph attachment for the report and the explanation to which of the photographs. 2 original copies of the photograph should be submitted to the RRC so the respondent receives the same evidence of the FRA. If the report to be submitted with electronically, file the protocol for submission. Such submission includes the violation report, name of the title, and regulated entity person notified of the violation, as well as the date of the notification date in the report prepared. The violation report was prepared, the date, and modified annually. Signature of the inspector. The field is only seen by the printed report. Signed the form when completed. Respondent notification. Enter the representative name, title of the FRA Form 618, Form 96. If available, the Form 96. Not presented on the Form 96, they can be added manually. The date and the time must be filled with the date and cannot occur prior to the inspection date. All right, 522, submission arrangement of the violation report. Each violation should be packaged together with a relevant inspection report of all the supporting data. The inspector should prepare the violation report, submit it in his or her regional specialist, either hand in hard copy electronic accordance with the applicable regional policy, submitted with the hard copy, typically the original 2 copies of the report required. Depending on the region's policy, individuals inspectors may require to generate the TFR for each of the report or regional office itself may do so. When submitting the violation, the report attachments must be assembled together as follows. The FRA Form 6180-110 violation report detail the violations. Continue the Form 96 inspection report. Also a continual sheet of the Form 96, the list attachment including witness statement, photographs, etc., providing the evidence supporting the factual statement of the violation. If the submitting of the hard copy, submit your violations in accordance with the following. Copy 1, original report with the photographs. Copy with the report with the duplicate set of original photographs. Copy 3, including the photocopied photographs. All right. If submitting the violation with the report electronically filed, the regional policy after the review of the regional office, the region will distribute the 3 reports received by the RRC. The regional file with the 2 copies of the RRC, 1 copy of the regional file, or the region will submit the reports electronically to the RRC with accordance with the protocol agreed upon with the RRC in the region. All right. 5.3 Notice of individual alleged violation. Form F618880 should be used by all office of railroad safety technical staff that are provided with a notice individual regarding the violation of the federal railroad safety laws and regulation. The form is designed to serve the only one of 2 purposes. The form provides the individual involved with a timely written notice if the FRA believes he or she violated the federal law or regulation, that he or she consider the notice of the warning that any such violation. Such future violation could leave the FRA enforcement action, but further action will not be taken in the specific violation identified specific. Secondly, where the regional warning is deemed sufficient, the Form 6180 provides a written timely notice of the individual FRA decision that it may be violated, that have violated the federal law or regulation. Furthermore, the further enforcement is recommended for the specific violation reformed. Issuance of the form does not require headquarters approval unless the doubt about the proper individual charged with the facts of the circumstances amount of the violation. The FRA does not want the notice of the individual of the alleged violation issued to the individual whose violation was compelled by a superior. If the inspector properly determined by the railroad offeree or the contractor employee has committed with the violation, the employer asserts the fact otherwise indicated with the violation resulted with the compliance with the orders from the superior, that the employee must be given the opportunity to provide evidence to support such an assertion. If such evidence is provided by the individual otherwise uncovered, the inspector will investigate those railroads of the regulated any chain of command to properly determine the culpability. Such investigation must be considered very carefully to ensure the blame is properly determined. It was usually necessary to consult with the applicable regional administration, office of railroad safety, headquarters staff of the office, chief of the council with the guidance prior to the concluding of such investigation. 531 prepare and notice the individual. The following instructions shall be included with the following issuance of the FRA Form 618080. Subject: enter the hazard material. Violation Title 49 CFR. Enter the applicable part rule subrule Form 6180 report type number. Enter the applicable inspection report type and the inspector's subsequent calendar year number, and submitted with the railroad offer the documented with the inspection investigation during the violation was established. Any violation by the individual is a violation by the employer, the employing railroad, or offer which may, subject to the separate enforcement of the corporate noncompliance, need to be properly recorded according to the inspection required to the complaints of the inspector report. The Form 96 concerns with the noncompliance support. Submit the copy of the railroad offer involved. The reporter will include notification of the fact that specified with the individual violated with the federal law regulation notation does not raise the Privacy Act concerning because it is not part of the taken of the system of records concerning individuals does not indicate what the action, if any, was taken against the individual. All right, violation recommendation. If a regional warning is recommended with the X in the no box in the chief counsel warning letter, a civil penalty is recommended with the X in the yes box. Name. Enter the last name and the first name and the middle initial of the individual. Address the individual street number, street name, the apartment number, the box number, and any other valid mailing address information. Social security number. Enter the individual's social security number as indicated with the Privacy Act. Disclosure social security number and this individual is voluntary. Date of the birth. Enter the individual's date of birth using the 2 digits each for month, date, and year. For example, the January 21st, 1960 would be 1st 2160. Job title of the individual. Enter the individual job title. The inspector will request the individual present proof of his or her identity, such as the valid state vehicle operator license. Individual is required to provide the information. However, the disclosure of the individual's social security number is voluntary. If the individual refuses to provide as any requested information, including the social security number, the inspector should share the information with the individual's employer. If the employer is not cooperative, the inspector will contact with the RRC with the regional administrator for guidance. Time and date of the violation. Enter the time of the date and time of the violation occurred with, including the AM, PM. Enter the date of the violation occurred with the 2 digits each of the month and date and the year of the shown of the date of the birth, time of the date of the individual notified. Enter the time of the date of the individual was orally advised with the inspector of the facts, including the fact that the inspector the recommended with the formal notice to be issued and involved. The use of the format specified the date of the birth entries. Location of violation. Enter the city, the county, and state where the violation occurred. Enter the city and the county and state with the GSA locations operating the railroad code. Enter an alphabet code of the railroad. Offer the responsibility for the operation location where the violation occurred. The operation practice division code, the railroad division code with the railroad responsible for the operating of the location of the violation occurred. Employee of the railroad code, the employing railroad code, the alpha code of the railroad employee, the individual is employed to offer the contract with the non-applicable given the employer's name with the first similar summary evaluation. Employing the division code. Enter the division code with the employing the railroad individual's regular reporting location. If the railroad is not employed with the not applicable summary of the violation, enter the summary circumstance of the violation summary that must contain with the fact that is constituted with the violation. More of the space is needed. A type of the continuation sheet is attached. The inspector will note that the fact of the section should be detailed discussion fact, the culpability, compliance history required on the violation of the purpose to merely summarize what the individual did, as well as the true inspector report violation. The name of the complaint, other even fact that the related complaint exists, should not be mentioned. The remainder of the form is self-explanatory. Two inspectors determining the violation must be assigned with the FRA 618080. The date of the report prepared by the mail that entered with the regional office at headquarters prior to the mailing form to the individual. 532 Guide for the preparation of violation reports against the individual. If the violation recommendation against the civil penalty issuance, the warning level of disqualification, the FRA inspection should address the following subjects in memorandum format under the separate headings. Factual detail. Factual detail of the violation must be explained with a specific reference source of the proof and if other the inspector owns observation. Violation FRA, the form 6180-110 should not be submitted but should be provided with some such assistance to guide the basic fact that must be explained. Severity of the violation. The memorandum should describe the detail and the harm, derailment, personal injury, leak of the evacuation of the results of the violation was seriously threatened by the violation and aggravation of the offense caused by the degree of the violation should be discussed here. Culpability of the individual. Keep in mind the civil penalty must be assessed against any individual that has actual knowledge of the law and reckless disregard of the legal requirements. The section addressing 4 factors. Knowledge of the facts. The memo should be explained with the individual with regard to each alleged violation actually knew how I had to do to know the exact each fact constituting the violation. If actual knowledge ensure closures, if is alleged, explain with such support to the alleged allegation. Whose conservation of the yardmasters in which the crew pointed with the defective mission knowledge is necessary. There must be sufficient information with the responsible interface with the individual knew the facts allegation of the violation considering the failure to do the duty of the know that the facts is explain the basis of conducting the person with the duty failed to the meet and the AG, the officer's employee assigned to inspect the tank prior to the shipment does not fully complete his or her task, fails to discover obvious defects. Right, your second factor is knowledge of the law. Section should explain that the individual knew the particular law alleged violated that had been discussed with the FRA prior to the incident that had the person been trained in a particular law according to responding with the railroad offer the rules, the requirements of the laws of the fundamental safe transportation hazardous material railroad by any violation of the law should be in reckless or disregard of the law. Compliance history. The section should address the previous enforcement actions against and warnings, even informal, given to the individual concerning compliance with a particular requirement now violated other railroad safety laws, any railroad discrepancy relevant in compliance with the safety requirements Mitigation factors, if any, if the situation can factor the present to tend to lessen the severity of the violation, culpability of the individual requirement. The new individual has not been fully trained on it. The factors should be addressed in the fairness of to the individual. Recommendation. This section will be briefly state with the inspector's recommendations whether a warning letter, civil penalty, disqualification, safety sensitive service is appropriate. Note, the inspector should keep in mind that he or she may be called to testify under oath in each allegation, warning letter, individual liability violation, each before an administrative law judge or federal district court. As within the violation report, greater care must be taken. Substantially all associations with especially true when here the individual livelihood is at stake. For the F5 5 4 memorandum.